This opening slide introduces the central question of the presentation. Can you feel more focused without actually performing better? Dynamine, the branded form of Methylliberine, has been promoted as a mood and energy enhancer that lifts spirits and motivation. But does feeling sharper translate into measurable improvements in training or cognition? We will explore what Dynamine is, how it works, and whether its advertised mood boost results in tangible benefits. The goal is to separate marketing promises from scientific evidence and help you make informed decisions about this supplement. This slide asks a simple but important question. Is feeling more alert the same as performing better? Many pre-workout formulas suggest that taking a stimulant like Dynamine will help you lock in and be more productive. The promise of sharper focus can be attractive when you are chasing that extra edge, but a feeling of clarity does not automatically translate into greater strength, faster reaction times, or improved endurance. We want you to think critically about the difference between a subjective sensation of focus and an objective improvement in output. In the slides that follow, we will look at the research behind Methylliberine and see whether the mood lift it provides is accompanied by measurable gains in physical or cognitive performance. Many supplements claim to offer a smoother, happier training experience, and Dynamine is marketed as a source of energy and motivation. However, a positive mood does not automatically lead to better concentration or mental output. This slide sets up the distinction between feeling good and genuinely improving focus. We will examine whether the mood lift provided by Dynamine translates into measurable cognitive gains or if it simply makes you feel more energetic without enhancing performance. AOF Supplements prides itself on being anti-hype and evidence-based. In this section, we emphasize the difference between how you feel and how you perform. It is easy to be swayed by marketing that equates a heightened sensation with improved outcomes. Through this presentation, we will scrutinize whether Dynamine actually increases focus or whether it only boosts mood. Understanding this distinction is crucial for making smart choices about your supplementation. Dynamine is the trade name for Methylliberine, a compound in the same family as caffeine. It is a caffeine-like purine alkaloid extracted from plants related to tea. Supplement companies market it for energy, focus, and mood enhancement. By learning what Dynamine actually is, you can better understand how it may interact with your body and why it has been positioned as a novel stimulant. Methylliberine is structurally similar to caffeine and acts on the same adenosine receptors in the brain. By antagonizing these receptors, it reduces the perception of fatigue, much like caffeine does. Unlike caffeine, Dynamine reaches peak concentration in the blood within roughly 0.8 to 0.9 hours and has a half-life of about 1.5 hours. When taken with caffeine, it can extend caffeine's half-life, meaning the stimulant effect lasts longer. Understanding these pharmacokinetic details helps explain why Dynamine is often added to stimulant stacks. People are drawn to Dynamine because it promises energy without the harsh jitters sometimes associated with caffeine. Users often report feeling uplifted in mood and motivation, and marketers claim it supports focus and concentration. Because of its short half-life and synergistic properties, Dynamine is frequently stacked with caffeine or liacrine in pre-workout formulas. Before jumping on the bandwagon, it is important to evaluate whether these perceived benefits are supported by scientific evidence. One key study on Dynamine was a randomized double-blind crossover trial. Participants completed 3 conditions: baseline, a dose of 100 milligrams of Methylliberine, and a placebo. 25 healthy men and women between 21 and 55 years of age, with body mass indices within a healthy range, took part. Researchers measured mood, concentration, energy, and various cognitive tests, as well as heart rate and blood pressure. This design allows for a direct comparison of Methyliberine's effects against a neutral baseline and placebo control. The trial distinguished between subjective and objective measures. Subjective measures included self-reported energy, mood, motivation, and overall well-being. Objective measures consisted of standardized cognitive tests like the Stroop test and Trail-Making Bee, as well as reaction time tasks. This distinction is critical because feeling more alert does not necessarily mean your cognitive processing speed or accuracy has improved. Evaluating both subjective feelings and objective performance provides a clear picture of what Dynamine actually does. In the study, participants reported increases in energy and sustained energy after taking Dynamine. Mood, well-being, and stress tolerance also improved, and many individuals felt more concentrated and motivated. These relative improvements were measured as percentage increases compared with baseline. However, the researchers cautioned that positive mood signals do not automatically equate to better cognitive performance. Feeling sharper is one thing. Producing more accurate or faster outputs is another. Despite the improvements in how participants felt, Objective performance measures remain largely unchanged. Scores on the Stroop and trail-making B tests did not improve, and reaction times and accuracy stayed the same. Additionally, there were no meaningful changes in blood pressure or heart rate, suggesting that methylliberine did not have a significant physiological impact at the dose tested. These findings underscore that increased energy and mood do not necessarily translate into measurable cognitive gains. The researchers noted that even a 10 to 15% bump in perceived energy and concentration did not lead to measurable improvements in cognitive tests. This emphasizes a disconnect between subjective focus and objective performance. While you might feel locked in or more energized after taking Dynamine, that feeling may not be reflected in better accuracy, faster reaction times, or enhanced productivity. Relying solely on perceived focus can be misleading when evaluating a supplement's effectiveness. To help interpret the findings, the evidence for Dynamine is organized into tiers. Supported evidence includes improvements in subjective energy, mood, and concentration ratings. Limited evidence supports benefits for stress tolerance and well-being. There is weak or no proven evidence for objective cognitive performance enhancement. In some cases, benefits observed in studies may be confounded because Dynamine was used in combination with caffeine and the eccrine. Understanding these tiers helps you weigh claims realistically. There are several myths surrounding Dynamine. One myth is that methylliberine alone dramatically boosts focus. Another is that Dynamine can replace caffeine entirely. The facts are different. Research shows that methylliberine improves mood and perceived energy, but does not provide objective cognitive gains. Caffeine remains the more proven ergogenic aid for boosting endurance and mental performance. The bottom line is that perception is not the same as performance, and the existing evidence does not support replacing caffeine with Dynamine alone. When taken by itself, Dynamine shows limited evidence for enhancing physical or cognitive performance. When combined with caffeine and the eccrine in a stack known as CMT, some studies report improved inhibitory control and vigilance. Users also report higher subjective alertness with the stack. However, it is important not to credit these benefits solely to Dynamine, as the presence of caffeine and the eccrine could account for much of the effect. Any analysis of stacked stimulants must recognize the contribution of each ingredient. A table summarizing combination research highlights how results vary across studies. In an esports crossover study comparing the eccrine, methylliberine, and caffeine versus caffeine alone and placebo, the CMT combination improved inhibitory control and vigilance, while caffeine alone increased jitters. In a tactical alertness study, both caffeine and the CMT combination improved reaction time during fatigue, but the combination caused less of a rise in blood pressure. Recreational gaming research found that the CMT combination increased target elimination speed compared with baseline. These findings suggest a promising synergy when multiple stimulants are combined, but the effects cannot be attributed solely to methylliberine. For those considering Dynamine, the typical standalone dose is around 100 mg. When stacking with caffeine or other stimulants, it is wise to start lower to assess tolerance. Avoid taking Dynamine late in the day until you understand how it affects your sleep, as stimulant half-lives can vary between individuals. Most importantly, monitor your total stimulant intake by accounting for all sources of caffeine, the eccrine and methylliberine, to avoid unintended overstimulation. The pharmacokinetics of methylliberine show that its peak concentration occurs around 90 minutes after ingestion, and its half-life is about 1.5 hours. When taken with caffeine, it can prolong caffeine's half-life, keeping caffeine active in your system for longer. Therefore, if you decide to stack Dynamine with other stimulants, take them early in the day to minimize the risk of sleep disruption. An illustrated pharmacokinetic curve helps visualize how methylliberine alters caffeine metabolism. Dynamine may appeal to users seeking a gentle lift in mood and energy without the harsh spike of a strong caffeine dose. People who are sensitive to caffeine's rapid rise and fall might find the smoother stimulation helpful. Those already using caffeine who want to extend its effects or achieve a more gradual curve may experiment with adding methylliberine. Keep in mind that these potential benefits are largely subjective and may not translate into improved performance. Dynamine is not ideal for everyone. Individuals expecting dramatic cognitive gains may be disappointed because research shows little to no objective improvement in mental performance. Athletes seeking proven enhancements in strength, power, or endurance should recognize that current data favor caffeine for those outcomes. Anyone sensitive to stimulants or with cardiovascular issues should exercise caution, as adding multiple stimulants can increase heart rate and blood pressure. Safety should always come first when experimenting with stimulants. Avoid stacking multiple stimulants unless you are tracking your total intake across all supplements and beverages. Those with anxiety, hypertension, heart issues, or who are pregnant should consult a healthcare professional before using methylliberine. Because Dynamine prolongs the half-life of caffeine, it can heighten the risk of sleep problems when taken late in the day. Use caution and monitor your body's responses closely. The final verdict is that Dynamine does improve mood and perceived energy, but convincing evidence for objective cognitive gains is lacking. When combined with caffeine and the acrin, Methylliberine shows promise for enhancing vigilance and inhibitory control, but these effects cannot be attributed to Dynamine alone. Feeling more focused does not necessarily mean performing better. Use Dynamine with realistic expectations, and remember that caffeine remains the more proven stimulant for both physical and cognitive performance. The closing takeaway reinforces the idea that feeling locked in is not synonymous with performing better. Methylliberine may improve how you feel by providing a modest mood and energy lift, but current research does not show that it delivers proven cognitive or physical gains on its own. If you choose to use Dynamine, consider it a supplementary enhancer rather than a replacement for evidence-backed substances like caffeine. Always pay attention to your total stimulant intake and how it affects your sleep and overall well-being.